I gave rock and roll to you. Gave rock and roll to you. Put it in the soul of everyone.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Area 312 Rock and Metal Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kent, along with my co-hosts,
Brax
and Mike.
And Mike.
Hey guys.
And today, friends, we have Frank Partipilo from Bride, especially the classic two albums that I personally think are the upper echelon, Live to Die and Silence is Madness. Frank, welcome again. It's an honor, sir.
Hey, thank you very much. It's an honor to be on your show. I mean, it's been a while.
Yes, sir. So, friends out there, before we really get rolling here, I was doing the math, and our very first episode of Area 312, I think we released it on May the 29th of 2021.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And Frank, I was looking at my notes. I have two sets of notes for you. In my original set of notes, I got to looking at the date, and it was June 5th of 2021. That's how long we've been wanting to get you on, you know. And
yeah, some crazy things happened. I apologize for that, but I'm very happy to be here and meet you guys finally.
Yes, sir, and no apology necessary. But what I want you to know, that's how much and for how long we wanted to have you on. And I remember talking to Rex, especially, and it was like you're one of the top four. There you go, Rex. You're one of the top four that we wanted to have on because I was telling Rex, Bride was a band that a go-to band back in the day, and these two albums, behind me were especially special to me for different reasons. And I'm like, for years I've been staring at this guy, Frankie Partipilo, and he just looks so cool. And there's some terrific bass line.
I don't look like the album cover anymore.
Hey, buddy, nothing wrong with that haircut.
I feel like I'm looking in the mirror.
So I'm like, I really love to talk to Frank, and just see what he has to say and whatnot. So, Frank.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind words.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you again for honoring us, for being here. And Frank, would you mind letting us know when you first began gravitating toward music and who were some of your musical influences?
Okay. I had an older brother who was probably 4 or 5 years older than me. Had a huge album collection, and he had bought a 1966 Fender Mustang guitar and this giant Baldwin amp that was literally 4 foot tall, and it was in our bedroom. So, as little brothers do, since the older brother is gone, I get on the thing and, I can't wait to play it. And so I would sneak on his guitar and hear all the 70s music that he was listening to. So that was going into me. And at the same time, I was teaching myself. I think at some point he came in and caught me playing it and was like, just take it, So kind of started there. And I was exposed to a lot, the 60s, 70s on up. And I do remember I think maybe I was in kindergarten. I had this little realistic radio I got for my birthday. For whatever reason, I love Johnny Cash.
Yep.
And Dolly Parton. Those are the first people I remember listening to. But just kind of went on from there. My dad was a opera singer, so he would go around the house singing all the time. So I was kind of exposed to it at a young age and fell in love with it. And then for a 10 or 11-year-old boy, Kiss came along.
Yeah.
My brother had that big poster up. So yeah, kind of went on from there.
We have a lot of the same. I was a huge Kiss fan in the 70s. And I was talking to Rex just the other day, and I have two figures in my music collection. They're boxed, but one's Johnny Cash and one's Joey Ramone, because I respect them for different reasons, you know. And, you know, hey, who doesn't love, you know, Love's Like a Butterfly, you know, by Dolly Parton. You know? I love all that stuff. And Mike and I like that old school country too, man. It's, you know, of course, Miss Loretta passed recently, 90 years old. But that's quite the juxtaposition. And then you're that's interesting that your dad was an opera singer. That's very
so everybody expected me to sing, you know. It's like, you can sing like your dad. So, you know, I can sing. And, you know, when I was doing clubs and things like that, I would just do it out of necessity. But I don't know, people tell you to do something as a kid, you just want to do something else. But I always thought guitars were cool. And, you know, I played guitar and bass. And of course, Eddie Van Halen was the man. When he came out, it was just all over. I was just sat in my basement for years and tried to get that good. And and we all have tried. Yeah, I mean, I think bass came later on. Somebody just asked me to fill in as a bass player one time, so I did it, and it's kind of fun. And from that, it just kept like snowballed, and I kept getting offers, and I was playing everywhere. And I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. And then I realized I kind of had a knack for it. I think the fact that I know what the guitar is doing, and I've got this sense of feel for the drums, that I can kind of lock those two in between. So yeah, it just kind of fit me. And so I've been doing it for 35 some years, long time.
Well, that's wonderful. Now, Frank, let me ask, whether guitar or bass, were you in previous bands before joining Bride?
Yes, a few local bands. I think I was in my early 20s when Bride, I got with them 2021.
Okay.
The first real band I was in was called Mad Rabbit. Mad Rabbit. Yeah, we recorded 6 songs. I've got that cassette somewhere. And just, you know, a couple other local bands. And then as I got a little older, I started playing all the clubs, and I would fill in for different people. And long story short, there's a drummer friend of mine, Chuck Hayes, and we wanted to play together. We went and tried out for a band, and they wanted me, but they didn't want him at the time, because they had another guy on drums they wanted. So, you know, kind of passed on that, and, you know, I was kind of getting a little bummed. And then through that, a guy named Kevin Feller gave my name to Dale Thompson, and that's how that connection was made.
I just curious now, what was your life like in regards to faith growing up? Did you grow up around it, or?
I grew up in a Baptist church. I was there with my suit on every Sunday.
Okay.
Some old lady banging on the piano.
Yeah.
You know, the old hymns, which is nothing wrong with that. But you know, never in my wildest dreams I would think that, you know, that type of music would turn into what it did later on. And as growing up, there was nothing like that in our generation until we got a little older.
Okay.
Yeah, mainly Baptist. And, you know, my mother was amazing. You know, she read the Bible to me from the time just as long as I could remember.
So
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Did you pretty much stick with that all the way through then until you hooked up with Bride, or did you?
You know, I got in my teen years and started working a job, and because I wanted a car and things like that. I still tried to go when I could. And, but, you know, as far as faith goes, that's always stayed with me. You know, it's not really a building, you know, it's something deep inside you.
Well, I grew up in the Baptist church too, Frank, so I feel you.
Yeah.
It was the piano and the organ. And
yeah,
you know, and I went from the KISS camp, and I received the Lord, you know, in the very early 80s, like 81, and we started going to church. And I remember loving the hymns, the lyrics, but the music bored me to tears. You know, I just didn't get it. And I remember back then thinking, I remember saying to myself, it's like, why can't somebody play music like Kiss or the Beatles that give the Lord the glory for it? That's exactly what I was thinking, you know, in my head. And turns out they did. Petra came along, Daniel Band, and not too far after that was a band called Bride.
Right. Right.
And so here we are, and I'm getting to talk to you today. And again, it's such an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So, Frank, you mentioned that a friend, if I'm not mistaken, a friend gave Dale your name. Now,
right.
Please tell us about your first meetup, if you can remember meeting up with the guys, and how did that go, and what did they say?
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you guys something I don't think I've ever told any magazine or any interview, because I don't know if they would think I was crazy or not, but I remember around that time I was, 20-something years old, just kind of a little down, feeling really bad. Probably just hormones growing up, whatever. Sure. And, just for a couple of weeks, it was really dragging me down. And it's something woke me up in the middle of the night, and it was just all gone. And I can't explain it. I really can't. It was just like poof. I sat up in my bed and looked around the room, and didn't really know what to think of it. So went back to sleep, got up the next day, and felt great. And there used to be this magazine called River City Rocks. It was this newspaper, and it was laying in my passenger seat as I was driving, and I stopped at a stoplight, and it opened up to this page. So I was kind of reading it, and it was an article about Dale Thompson and Troy Thompson and what they were doing. I didn't know anything about Christian rock. I've never even heard the term. And I remember thinking, Lord, I got a chance to play good music, I would do it. A week later, Dale Thompson called my house. So, it's crazy how those things happen. And I think some things do happen for a reason. So let's see. I played with Steve Osborne just a couple of times in jams. I went over, met them, got the album, went back and learned some of that, and went over and, just kind of, we all hit it off. It was just real easy. And for some reason, I remember Dale saying, he goes, man, I just knew you were the guy when you walked in the door for some reason. So, and they became really good friends and brothers to me.
Nice.
Really great time in life.
So, the funny thing, Frank, and I told Dale this, in an interview that we were blessed with him, Bride was always that, for some reason, this dangerous Christian rock band, this dangerous Christian band. I don't know why. I absolutely loved you guys. I mean, I've got the 2 albums back here, and I have other Bride releases too, but these 2 are the pinnacle for me. And I don't know why Bride always. You guys were cutting edge, man. You guys had some crash. And
I just want to tell you, the whole concept behind that was, our thought was, we don't want to be a band that goes to play Christian camps. There was some crazy music going on back then. It was kind of negative. We wanted to be as good as those guys on that level, and also be able to be played on the radio. And we didn't want to play church camps. We wanted to go where we were needed, big shows, nightclubs, whatever. And we would not really announce, what we were. We would just go play. And then later on, they kind of look up the band and start finding out, hey, those guys are Christians, and they're pretty cool. And, and that's kind of how we worked it. Stryper was great. They were fantastic. They were really upfront. You knew what they were doing. So we kind of like to trick people into it.
So, did you have then good reception with the audience, with not really telling them exactly what you were all about? Did they figure that out and talk to you guys after the concerts, or how was all that with the audience and that after that?
Yeah, it depended on the venue. You know, we did play some Christian venues and then we'd play regular venues. And then, yeah, they would find out. They would talk to us. And through that, you know, we were able to reach a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, another key, just, all these things are popping in my head. I remember when the Live Today album came out. And one thing that really helped us, there was a show I listened to as a kid called Metal Shop every weekend, syndicated show around the world. And I listened to that all the time. And as soon as the album came out, they called us to be on the show, and I think they put In the Dark. And there's over 6 million listeners, which is crazy. So 6 months ago, I'm in this town, little small town, Sellersburg, and millions of people are listening to me play. And that really helped us out a lot. And that's when the big crowds really started coming in. But our music was right along with all the other bands, and it fit. And you know, I'm not trying to take credit for like the great music. I was surrounded by great players. You know, I heard one time, if you want to be successful, surround yourself by people that are better than you. So that's what I did. So, you know, it's a learning curve, but I got there.
Well, every one of y'all brought it, you know, Frank, and In the Dark is actually one of my favorite songs on that album. It's just a great,
mine too.
Great melody. But what I love about it, and I don't know, and friends out there, I don't want to rob anybody of credit. I don't know exactly whom did what, but one of my favorite parts about that song, aside just from it being a great melodic and rock metal song, that breakdown in it. That jazz breakdown.
Steve Osborne was playing jazz. You know, he liked different types of music, and he was really into jazz. And he looked at me one time and said, "Man, I'm gonna find a way to fit some jazz in one of our songs." And that breakdown, that was all Steve. You know, the jazz thing. And I love the solo in that. I think that's one of his better solos. And I just thought that whole part was amazing. And
it is. And then your bass though is very prominent in there, and it's just real the interplay. Everybody in that band, and I am taking nothing away from Bride in subsequent years. I love Snakes in the Playground. You know, I love Kinetic Faith. I love Drop for different reasons.
Right.
But these are my two favorite albums. And it was just, to me, it was amazing that one minute I'm listening to maybe a thrashier song, and the next minute I'm listening to this jazz breakdown.
Right.
And then we get to Heroes at the end, which is this epic. But, you know, you had the vocals of Dale. You had Steve Osborne and Troy on guitar. You had Stefan Rowland on drums. And Frank, you were there on bass. All you guys brought it. It's a 5-star effort album. I mean, so.
No, thank you. Awesome. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Please tell us about the recording process for Live to Die. How long did the recording process take, Frank?
I think it was a 2-week thing in New Jersey, West Orange, New Jersey, the studio there that, you know, wasn't marked with anything. You wouldn't know the studio. I think Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi, and people like that had recorded there. So, we flew up to New York, my first time there. Got in the studio with our producer, was John Petrie. He had just produced the Goo Goo Dolls and House with Billy Sheehan. He grew up in Buffalo, and some other bands too that I can't remember some of them. They're, you know, all name bands. Let's think. So what exactly do you want to know about the process?
So was it a pleasant experience? And did you say it took about 2 weeks to record? Is that what you?
Right. Well, yeah. We had the bass and the drums done in a week. It was, you know how they say throw a kid in the water and let him learn to swim? That's me. You know, I was in little studios. I never had a producer just on me looking through the glass, click it back, go back. There was no Pro Tools to move things around. You had to play it perfect all the way through. And you're seeing American Idol, the guy Simon Cowell. Yeah. He kind of had that kind of that personality.
Yeah.
I hope you don't see this, but I like John. He's a great guy, but he was trying to get the best out of us.
Sure.
So, you know, I learned to be brave really quick. And it worked out. It made me better, you know, so much better player for doing that. And then after that first experience in studio was great after that.
So did you have the songs pretty much all worked out, or were you still working on maybe arrangements and little things here and there, or was that already fleshed out before you got to the studio?
Well, we had the songs written, and kind of the story goes, John had offered 2 jobs to pick one of these 2 bands. So he listened to one cassette, listened to the other one, said it was the worst garage band he ever heard, and heard us and wanted to do us. We did pre-production. John flew out to Kentucky, West Point, Kentucky, and listened to us, and okay. And the songs were pretty well put together. I mean, we just went there and knocked them out. It was funny is the next time I saw him, it's like, you know, I just got to tell you guys something. That other garage band that I turned down, I could be a millionaire right now. That was Metallica. So,
Wow.
So anyway, yeah. So yeah, we had them all together. I mean,
Okay.
you know.
So Frank, I know that it's hard, you know, you can't play favorites. It's like choosing, you know, who's your favorite child or something. But are there any songs from the album that you found especially enjoyable to play? Like you're like especially fond of a certain riff or bass part that you've done on the album?
Well, In the Dark, we just mentioned. I think Heroes. Fire and Brimstone was always fun. We had a lot of cool stage moves back then when I could move like that. Those 3 stick out to me. They all have a little special spot, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Try to make them a little bit different. It wasn't like an AC/DC album where everything was just straight through. There's nothing wrong with that because AC/DC is great.
Sure.
But yeah, they all have their own little personalities.
Oh, yeah. Out for Blood's another personal favorite of mine.
Yeah.
I know a lot of fans, especially, I think Hell No was like an early anthem for Bride. A lot of fans took that.
That got really popular. There's a lot of people like that at the shows. It was fun to play live.
Oh, yeah.
And that little spin on words may have upset a few people.
That's right. That's right. Well, now, 1989, it also brought a terrific Bride release, Silence is Madness. The power metal was very much still intact, yet different flavorings were added in songs such as Hot Down South, Rock Those Blues Away, and the streamlined Until We Rock. Frank, do you recall, were there discussions within the band at this time? Was there a purposeful change in musical direction, or did you just all kind of naturally gravitate toward these different flavorings?
Yeah, you know, we all listen to different music. You know, I can remember listening to NXS back then a lot, you know. And we knew that was the last album for Pure Metal Records. So we'd had other songs written. Everybody Knows My Name and all that stuff we had that. And we weren't going to give some of our better songs to them, basically. So, yeah, we were trying some different things. And we would always goof around at practice. And Dale's a really good blues singer and trying to go for a different sound. And then Steve wasn't in the band at that point. And then we brought a good friend of mine and mentor, Rob Johnson. I just want to mention him doing the lead work on that. He was an amazing guy. He passed away a few years ago, along with Steve. Man, you know, we all in this area looked up to him. And, you know, our producer again was John Petrie, who was really didn't pass out compliments too much. And Rob was about 6'5", really tall guy, long dark hair. And he just blistered through every one of those songs. He'd do one take. And I remember John looked at me and goes, where did you find this guy? You know, why is he not in New York or LA or whatever? I don't know. He's really good. So yeah, I don't know if, not many people bring his name up. And I just really want to mention that.
Sure.
Because he was a great mentor to me and nicest guy in the world. And he's like a big brother to me.
Frank, did you have any post-bride, and we're going to stick on the bride track, but just at this juncture with Rob, did you have opportunities to play or perform with him in any endeavors post-bride?
Oh yeah. I'd sent a video earlier. Y'all probably shocked. It was a band. I helped a guy, a country band, Chris Lee and the Broken Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
It was produced by Jim Moose Brown, who wrote 5 O'Clock Somewhere and works with everybody in Nashville. I mean, all the big names. And we got that made. So it was Jerry McBroom on drums, Rob Johnson on lead guitar, and we were going to have both of them play lead, and Steve Osborne. And Steve's like, no, I just want to play acoustic. I always have to do a lot of work. I just want to play acoustic and have fun and let Rob, Steve just no ego at all. And Rob was amazing. And it just worked. And that was a fun show. And that was the last time I played with those guys. And so, yeah, it's definitely crazy how quickly that came together. Did a few shows, and it was a lot of fun.
So at this juncture, let's stay on this track for just a second, Ben. So I when you had sent me that material, of course, I was picking out Rob Johnson, and I certainly recognized Steve. I didn't realize that was Jerry McBroom on the drums back there. So that was very interesting. That's like crazy incarnation of a post-bride band, if you will.
Another drunk evening, I don't know her name. Just another dancer, she don't have the answers, she wants more than change. Outside the strip club, an old man said to me, son, you can't get to heaven with this kind of living, it's all misery. And I said to him, if you make it to heaven, tell him I'm not doing well. Could you send me an angel? 'Cause I've done my time here in hell.
Let's talk about the incredible, talented late Steve Osborne.
Sure.
We talking with Dale, we got his perspective because Steve was loved by so many. Frank, in your own words, tell us about your friend Steve Osborne, because we also wish to respectfully remember him here.
Yeah. That time, me and Steve and I were really close at that time. He was going to school. He had battled cancer and got through that. And, the people took such good care of him. He wanted to do that for somebody else. I mean, he was valedictorian at his high school. The guy was just a genius. He really was. He could do anything he wanted to. I wish I was that smart. So he was going to a college nearby my house, and he became a registered nurse. And between classes, he'd come over, and I had 4 acres in the lake, and my kids were little, and cats and ducks and everything else running around. So, and he loved it. So we got to hang out quite a bit during that time. Of course, we all know what happened. It was definitely unexpected. I mean, absolutely no signs of that. I mean, it was just really out of the blue. And, well, I'll just go ahead and say it just because I think he would want other people to know. It's like, people look at alcohol sometimes like it's not a dangerous thing. And he had something that really upset him, and he'd worked out at the hospital. Everybody said he was great, and stopped by the liquor store, went home that night. And I really think if he'd not stopped at the liquor store that night, he'd still be here with us. And so just something to think about. If anybody's out there listening right now, and you even think about that stuff, just find somebody to talk to. Reach out, find my Facebook page. You can talk to me. I'd be glad to do it. But yeah, don't try to go through that by yourself. So. Steve played guitar so much. At that point, he still didn't have his driver's license. So, you know, I would go pick him up. I live in Indiana, and we drive all the way to West Point, Kentucky. And I mean, the guy literally just played 20 hours a day. And I picked him up one day, and I thought he got in a fight. His face was all scratched up. I said, "What the heck happened to you, buddy?" He goes, "Oh, I fell asleep with my guitar in my hands and, you know, scratched my face up with the head of it." It's like, oh, that's crazy. So, you know, we go to practice, come back a couple days later, go to pick him up. His mom's like, "Steve's in the basement." And open the door, and it's still dark in there. I knew he's still asleep. So I flipped the lights on. I ran down the steps. "Hey, get your butt up." And I looked over, and his guitar was floating in the air above him. He'd taken 2 bungee cords and put them to the ceiling, so when he'd fall asleep, it'd raise up, and he wouldn't scratch his face anymore. And he woke up, he could just grab it, pull it back down, and start practicing again. So that's how dedicated he was.
Ingenuity at its finest right there.
Yes, sir.
Well, Steve was certainly a blessing to many, and certainly with the music that he contributed through Bride and through other, you know, endeavors. He's still gifting us, and so we respectfully remember Steve. Grateful for him.
Yeah, he was really loved in the city. Every guitar player knew him, and he was just nice to everybody. Would show somebody anything. If you saw a little kid at a guitar store, he'd walk over and try to help him. He was just that type of person. Just, you know, he's just a great guy.
Yeah.
Blessed to have him.
And say, Frank, tell us a little about the kind of gear you prefer, like what kind of bass and.
At what point in life? Because I've had all of them. I've got that gear disease. I went through several incarnations. Oh, I got something to show you. This is, you're not going to believe this. Okay. After I finished Live to Die, I went to a Spectre NS2 bass. This is a black one. And the guy down the street had sold me this bass. It was a West tone. It sounded amazing. And I was playing different styles of music, so I could slap and do rock with it. And I had other basses. So a friend of mine's little brother was learning to play, and I kind of passed it on to him. And then it got passed on to another brother. And about 4 years ago, I get a knock at the door, and it's the guy I gave the bass to originally, Scott Fleming. And anyway, he walks in the door with this. Is the bass that did Live to Die.
Wow.
The really other cool thing is, which is insane, these strings have never been changed since I owned it. These strings played Bride concerts, and they're deader than heck, but yeah, no one's ever changed the strings on it. The last guy I had it did Elvis music and liked the dead sound. So yeah, these are like 30-something-year-old strings. Anyway, it's nice to have that back. I'll probably pass that down to the kids. Hopefully somebody appreciates it someday.
That's awesome.
No, that's awesome that you have that.
Yeah. As far as gear goes, back then, I kind of mixed and matched things. It was just always like tweaking stuff. So mainly I ran a Sun Coliseum head, a 410 Harkey cabinet. They just came out, and a couple 215 PV cabinets and a power amp, and of course some other basic effects. So it was and of course the active EMG pickups. I got more compliments out of that rig than any other rig I owned in my life. It was just kind of put together. It all sounded good for some reason, but I kind of mainly stuck with Ampeg my whole life. Love Ampeg stuff.
Okay.
And
all right. What bass are you playing now?
It's a Fender P-Bass Special. It's got a jazz bass pickup in the bridge and the P-Bass pickups up front, and it's wonderful. It's got a P-Bass body and jazz bass neck also, kind of a hybrid, and I get a lot of sounds out of that thing. I can cover a lot of ground with it, and
cool.
Real happy with that.
with regard to Silence is Madness, a longer album to get nailed down than Live to Die, or was it a shorter process for you guys?
I think it was about the same time. We did that one in Nashville, down on Music Square. So that was it was an experience to be down there. The house that they made the studio out of used to be Roy Orbison's house, and down in the basement they had this like a reverb chamber. It was like almost a tunnel shaped like an S for natural reverb, and you'd stick an amp at the very end of it with a mic, and we got a lot of cool sounds out of that. That was different. And but you know, this type of place, Steve Perry had just finished his solo album there, and Hank Williams Jr. was coming in behind us. But yeah, it was fun. And John was a little lighter on us at that point because he had a lot more respect for us, I think, at that point. And that one was more fun to make. I think we had a lot of fun. And I don't know, there's something about Elvis stopping by there or something. So we always had donuts, and we'd leave a jelly donut with a bite on it somewhere in the morning for people to wake up. So Elvis was here. Just goofy things like that. And then the recording process was good. The only thing I listened to those albums, everybody does this. I don't think we sounded better live than we did on our albums, if that makes any sense. Our guitars, they just never really, I thought were okay. Bass, just okay. I mean, drums were good. John the producer was a drummer, but I wish, we got the sound we were looking for on those things. They came out decent. We weren't, upset by no means, but people would say it all the time. Oh my gosh, y'all are better live. It's usually backwards, the guys, so maybe helped us out by doing that. But back then, I'll pull them out, listen to them every now and then. Of course, on my iPhone now, not the album. The albums are hanging on the wall back there.
What are some of your favorite songs that came out of those albums?
Actually, I had this music for Fool Me Once for quite a while, and it didn't make it on the Live to Die album, which I kind of wanted to get on there, but there's only so many songs we could do, but it made it on that one. Just for my influences, it was the one that everybody pitched in, but that one was mainly mine. I was really proud of that one. And of course, Dale, those amazing lyrics on it, the whole band just makes it sound better. Trying to think what other songs were on that album. I guess I'm getting old.
Frank, if I may ask a very candid question, because I had to do a double take when I was looking. Under the Influence.
Mm-hmm.
Did you play bass on that?
Originally, I did. John took that back to New York with him, and back then technology was hard to come by. So he had got a hold of this synthesizer that Def Leppard just used on their album.
Okay.
And so he wanted to use that, and there was some things going on, trying to lock the drums in. And so whatever reason, the bass had to be redone, and it wasn't worth it for me to fly to New York for that.
I get it.
Yeah, but for the most part, everything else is me. I realized quickly there's a lot of bands that don't play on their own albums, especially in Nashville because of the unions. And it's, the older I've gotten, and it's just crazy to think about that. But other than that, it's all us.
Well, I'm glad I asked that question because, your bass playing wasn't something in question. It's the other songs. The proof's in the pudding.
Yeah,
and
it has something to do with locking in with something the synthesizer was doing, and the synth wasn't there when we recorded. It was just bass and drums and guitars.
Sure.
So,
well, it makes sense now, and I'm glad I asked because now we know the story. Thank you for that.
Oh, while we're talking about stories, okay, now I'll think about it. Live to Die album. the very end, the crazy screech and stuff. I don't know if anybody realized what that was. West Orange, New Jersey, there was a grand piano put up against the wall. We stayed at the studio. Supposed to be this nice apartment upstairs, and it wasn't that nice. And I remember our first night there, it was really cold, and we're all laying there, and it had a really tall ceiling, and we're looking up, and we see this little spot of light. And we're like, is that a hole in the ceiling? It's no, surely not. And we kept looking at it. I remember us all talking about it. Finally, Steve Osborne, for whatever reason, pulls out a bar of soap. And this hole could not have been like 6 inches, 25 feet away, and chucks that bar of soap up and it goes straight out the hole. We just started laughing. I think some snow actually came in at one point, but I do remember that. And anyway, back to the whole thing with the noise at the end was a joke. That's John Petrie waking us up, doing his Yoko Ono impression and plucking on the. He just put that in there as a gag, and so many people, oh, they're demonic, they're killing goats, and it was some of the stories we heard were just insane. They only knew it was just this little skinny, harmless guy trying to make a band up in the morning.
Sure,
that's what.
That's part of why I found Bride to be that dangerous Christian metal band, because I'm a wide-eyed. Let's see, 88. I was 17. And I was none the wiser. I didn't know how you guys made music. I mean, I didn't have a guitar at that time. I wasn't blessed to have my own instrument back then. But so everything that I'm hearing from you guys, it's just this totally different world. And
that was a joke by John. If you notice, there's a really long space.
Yes.
He put that in there so the record company wouldn't hear it. They thought that was the last song, cut it off. They went into production and went out, and it was too late.
So, anyway, I had that tape in fact, this is the very tape. This was my Live to Die tape from back then.
Awesome.
And I was letting side 2 play out. It was in my sister's tape deck. I was waiting on her in the store, and I probably had this for, a full year without ever knowing that was there. And then one night I'm sitting there and all of a sudden, blah, and I'm like,
yeah, it scared a lot of people, but it was just really was a joke. That's
sure. I get it. I totally get it. We're talking stories, Frank, and are there any other funny stories, crazy stories, road stories, anything else that you can think of that would be fun to share?
Or maybe like a concert that was really, sticks out in your mind for whatever reason, Frank, something,
Okay. I've got a couple things for you. Right after we were on Metal Shop and all that, we did Cornerstone up in Chicago. We had okay crowds before then. They had a main, I think it was Rick Kua was playing at the main stage, and we were like in a huge, fairground type thing. It could pack a lot of people. And I remember we were kind of finishing up sound check, and those big doors opened up. I'd never seen so many people in my life. They came just rushing in, and I looked at Dale, and we both took off. We thought they were just going to run over the stage. Things kind of settled down. The building was full, and there was that many people on the outside standing to listen to us. And we were just looking at each other like, wow, where'd they come from? It just had no clue that was going to happen. That was, the biggest crowd we ever had at that point. That's just a fond memory. We've got that. Somebody's got that on tape somewhere. And there's, we played little jokes on each other. One strange thing, I remember playing a show in California, and I noticed these women had white dresses on, and they were just spinning. And I was like, what in the world is that? And they finally asked them to leave. And after the show was over, I asked one of the security people, I said, what was up with the girls? And they said, well, they were white witches. I'm like, what? So yeah, they were, I don't know. That was kind of odd, but I'm sure as soon as I get off here, I'm gonna think about 10 other funny stories.
Well, Frank, during this duration, during this time period, Live to Die, Silence is Madness, were y'all on the road all the time, or were y'all doing, I think they call them fly out dates?
Yeah, mix
how
of
were you guys
both.
touring?
Yeah, we would basically airplanes and vans, and we'd bring our guitars, and the venues would have backlines for us. So it worked that way, so we could do shows from the West Coast, the East Coast, just pop around. Yeah, so it wasn't too bad. I love flying in the airplanes. You know, you remember Siskel and Ebert?
Yeah.
These guys that used to. So just another funny thing is, I guess it was the Ebert guy came out of the bathroom and I was standing there. I recognized him right off the bat. Well, the first thing I did was put my thumb up. He put his up, and you have to be that age to understand why that's funny. It kind of cracked the guys up.
Did Pure Metal, Frank, at that time, if it said Pure Metal and then later Intense Records, I would snatch it up. I was that hungry for music, good Christian metal and rock music. So you guys were on Pure Metal. Did you guys have, was the label behind you guys? Did you have great support, whether for making your albums? Were they very supportive that way? And what about tour support? Were they behind you, did you feel like?
They were really good at getting our albums in the music stores. We were in pretty much every music store in Europe and didn't even know it. So there was some fuzzy math going on, let's say that. But yeah, the album got out there, and that was my main goal. I never wanted to be a rock star. I love playing music. Honestly, my goal was just to walk in a record store one day and pick my album up, and I was able to do that. And, the places in New York and different things. Then we got our own section with our name on it. I love that, and the shows were fun. But that to me was like something that an accomplishment I really wanted to do, and I was happy I was able to do it. And
it's pretty good if you don't have to be under miscellaneous. Huh?
Yeah, there's a couple things I could talk about while I'm thinking about it. We had some chances to really change up. I remember that show in particular I just talked about, the Witches. It reminded me of this guy Brian Ross from Capitol Records that showed up to see us. He's pretty big guy as far as in Capitol, and had stuff overseas, blah blah blah. He just left Michael Jackson's house. His best friend was Quincy Jones. I remember that. He came to see us, and he had a lot of bands, like he was managing Cheap Trick and all these other ones. And after the show, he came back and talked to us. He basically just said, love the band, but I'd like to work with you guys. We have hit songs already written, at Capitol Records. So all you have to do is just, show up. We'll get you the limousines. We're talking Cruddy Studios, the best studios in the world. Roll out the red carpet, basically, and wanted to take us over and kind of like, he wanted to do some changes to the music and things like that. So there was an opportunity. We kind of thought, well, we could go make a lot of money, and then we could still go back and do what we wanted to do. But we ended up making the decision just stay how we were. We passed up on that one. But that seems like something out of a movie, but it's absolutely true. And then, before he left, I remember he pulled out probably more $100 bills I've ever seen in my life, and threw some down and said, hey, go out for a nice dinner tonight, and left and give him a call. So, and I know people have said over the years, oh, they're doing this to make a lot of money. And no, not at all. It was never about money, or just trying to get a record deal. There's always, negativity out there sometimes. But, just want everybody to know we passed up a few things. And I think I mentioned one of you guys, I ran into Aerosmith here in town one time and was hanging out with one of my friends that managed the big rock club. So they were here for like 3 days doing Derby Jam. So I kind of arranged it to go there. They said, well, don't tell anybody we're going, because they didn't want the place to get overran. So I called Dale up, and I promised not to tell anybody. I didn't even tell Dale. I said, Dale, you need to meet me there with like 10 shirts and 10 CDs and 10 of everything. I wouldn't tell him why. And we were standing on the steps, and these limousines pulled up, and here Steven Tyler and those guys walked out. Said, how you doing? And I remember Dale going, you're Steven Tyler. So we went in there. They were really super nice. We gave them the stuff, and they actually listened to it. And Steve really liked it. We got word back to the point that their management sent us contracts. Were wanting to sign us, and that was another thing we talked about. And for whatever reason, just decided to stay where we were at. Just didn't want to change again. We felt like they were going to try to mold us into something we didn't want to be. So there's a little few stories. I don't know if anybody's ever heard those.
So, Frank, I also remember you were telling me in our communication, you said that there's a funny story behind your first encounter with Michael Bloodgood.
Oh, yeah. My earbud's falling out. We were doing a show in Nashville, and I think all they saw was the first album. I don't know if they were aware of Live to Die and the big change in the band or whatever. And, I was new to them. Honestly, I never heard them before either. I'm sure they heard us. I don't know. Anyway, as we were all getting there was a couple little balloons laying on the stage, and he was kind of walking across, and he kicked one of them. He was what do you say? That must be one of Brad's stage props. so I thought it was funny. I just kept going on to the dressing room, and so we played first, and they went on after, and so we're talking to him after the show, and they were super guys, and I'm not cracking on him at all. I remember looking at him and saying, oh, by the way, if we used balloons, they'd be a lot bigger than those. He just looked at me and started laughing. We kind of got a chuckle out of it. But yeah, I mean, we were always friends with those guys from then on out. They were super. I love their sound. I thought they were a fantastic band. I still listen to them. Les Carlson back then was just killing it, and just a great band to watch. It's powerful. And I was glad to see that, because I wanted this type of music to be good.
Yes.
Cheer them on. They were just another group of brothers to us.
That's right. Well, yeah, Bride and Bloodgood both. Boy, that's a lot of beats. Bride and Bloodgood both.
Yeah.
You guys were awesome. So, Frank, 1990, and this is where I start getting a little fuzzy with the picture in a way. A friend of mine had the End of the Age cassette, and he played for me Same Old Sinner in the original Everybody Knows My Name. And I think you've answered this a little bit for me a little bit earlier.
Right.
But I never had the album. I love those two songs. I don't know the credits for the album. Frank, did you, and I think you said live, you played Everybody Knows My Name and Same Old Sinner. Is that you playing the bass on that album, on End of the Age, on those versions?
Well, I know we actually recorded those in the studio. We did demos, a lot of demos. And I think later on they put out called Bride Reels. Yep. Bride Reels 1 and 2. So a lot of those songs, you'll get the original versions on those. But I can remember I was somewhere and I was in a store, and some kid come up and said, hey, will you sign this? I didn't know what he had in his hand. And the record company put a best of album up for CD or tape. I had no clue. And I was like, oh, well, that's nice to know. So
yeah.
I'll sign it for you.
Yeah, can I have a copy?
Like that yeah, I didn't even have a copy. And another funny thing is, right when we did Live to Die, same time they started making CDs. So we had a cassette tape, vinyl album, and a CD. And nobody in the band even owned the CD player. And I remember Troy going out and buying one just so we could listen to it at practice and put it in this little box and turn it on, and how it sounded so different than tapes. And it really sounded like you were just sitting in the studio where we were at. But you know, later on, you find it kind of lacks a little warmth. And the way I could explain is like, you know, we see a cinematic movie, it has this warmth to that picture versus a handheld home camera, kind of like that. And so they've gotten a lot better at it. But yeah, that was kind of a cool thing to do. Man, I'm really dating myself right now.
Oh, I get it. I still prefer CDs because I know they don't have quite the warmth that a vinyl does, but to me, there's still a very good sound quality over cassettes or, you know, maybe downloads. And plus, they're still portable. I can take them in my truck, you know, and all that.
Yeah, they've definitely got better at it over the years as far as putting the sound on those. So.
You remember the 8-track tapes?
When I was little, yes. Yep.
So, Frank, if I may ask, because I'd like to start getting in then to some of your more recent musical endeavors, but do you ever see, Frank, like Stefan Rowland or Dale and Troy? I mean, do you have any interaction at all?
Dale and I message back and forth all the time. And he's in New Zealand, married, moved over there. Stefan Rowland, I think he was from Florida, then went to British Columbia, but we still stay in contact every now and then. And but I don't think I've seen Dale since he, left for the last time. We all kind of got together, and he went over there, and he hasn't been back since. But and I know he's planning on coming over soon. I'd love to go to New Zealand, visit him sometime. That place looks amazing. And Troy still lives nearby, but Jerry McBroom, I see a lot.
Good.
I see him playing around. We talk, and he's just a great guy. He's a music minister at a church, youth leader also, and he does a really good job with that.
So you want to drink, 'cause it makes you feel so big. Pour it down. I'll break you like that.
I was happy just being home raising my kids. I went to a Christian church that is more of a modern Christian church. There'd be 5,000 to 7,000 people show up on the weekends for services, and I did that for about 10 years, and also played in a few other bands here and there. Authentic You. Let's see, I just did an album 2 years ago with a band called 8 Inch Elvis, which was kind of a rockabilly type band. They would take their own spins. We did an original CD, and it's out there on iTunes right now. And we're the band that does the Light Up Louisville for Christmas. There's usually like 40,000 people show up. So I love Christmas music, was able to do that. Those guys are still great guys.
So with 8 Inch Elvis, that was, and you have a video called Rumble. The album, if I'm not mistaken, is Viva La Boom. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I will put the link for that. Friends, I'm going to talk about 3 bands right now that Frank was in, was in, and one of them is 8 Inch Elvis. And I will put the description to these 3 bands below, and you can check out a video, and it'll give a link. I love the rockabilly on 8 Inch Elvis, and that's got to be the Johnny Cash influence coming out,
Yeah, they're just friends of mine, and we just want to do that. Used to be a straight up rock band, and then and Mohawk Mike. He's actually a Gretchen Dorst guitar player. He's just amazing. That guy, oh my gosh, he's just so good at what he does and slide. And I've always liked venturing into different styles of music. It's fun to do something different.
1966 was the start of it all. Came into the driveway, phone on the wall. Never would have thought the kid that I was would turn into a rocket rhythm and full of buzz. Movies on the weekend all good and well, but my stereo was blasting like a cannon.
at this point in my life, I'm trying really hard not to repeat what I did in the past. Several years ago, I did go back with that. Oh gosh, it's probably maybe 10 years ago. This compilation CD called Light It Up. It was me, Jerry McBroom, and Dale and Troy went and recorded the song. And Liberty and Justice is the name of the project.
Yep.
It was a band, but it wasn't a band. And he had to get all these people that played in different regular rock bands to do this style of music. And Jeff Pilson's on there, the guys from Def Leppard, and a lot of other ones. And like my name's right next to theirs. So it was a fun little thing to do.
That was Justin Murr that used to do those Liberty and Justice albums.
Okay.
He's since passed away, but yeah, he did a few of those that I know of. So,
So Frank, what year was Chrisley and the Broken Hearts with yourself and Steve and Jerry? What year were y'all doing that? That was more of a straight up country project, a modern country.
Yeah, it was a mix of retro country and some modern. Gosh, that may be like 10 years ago. I'm thinking 8 to 10, possibly.
So
it was just a fun project. I mean, we had the guy Reed Moore that played the slide guitar, if you see in the video, and he played with Elvis's guys. And then, so it was just something different. Steve playing acoustic, and it was just fun. We were just having fun. And the band was great. I mean, it was one of those bands you hardly had to practice. We just would come in and play the songs. And yeah, and being around those guys too, brotherhood we all had with each other.
Sure.
Just for the joy of music, and that was a fun project.
Well, what about Joshua Skye, the American U2 experience? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's a long-winded story. I've always liked U2. Honestly, I say, I've never had a U2 poster up on my wall when I was a kid, but I like their songs. On New Year's Day, I remember I loved the bass lick and that always stuck with me. And then as they went along, they had a lot of good meaning, and just the band in general I had a lot of respect for. They came through and did their, I guess, the 30-year Joshua Tree tour, and they stopped in Louisville and did it at the big football stadium with about 80,000 people, and the biggest screen I've ever seen in my life. And it was just amazing, just how they put that together with the media and just the emotions that, I mean, it just grabbed everybody. My 2 children were with me. And I just, it was one of those times that it was like I saw my first concert again. My first concert was Great Kid Man, the Journey. And I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I stayed up all night. It's like, I got to play in a band. I got to do this. but that really stuck with me. And there's a lot of people doing tribute bands. And I thought about the price of tickets for that. I was like, they're really high. A lot of people couldn't afford that. What if I tried to look at anybody else was really doing a good job of it? There's some out there, but they weren't really doing it at the high level. So I just had my first call guys and called them up and said, I got this idea. What do you think? And everybody jumped on it. So we actually spent a whole year in the studio perfecting those songs. And, people think that YouTube music is easy, but when you get in to start playing and really listen, there is so much going on. It's crazy. Some of those songs were like, we'd have to do them over and over. And these guys are all professional musicians. And, but we wanted to get it just perfect as we could. And we also had the video made to go behind it that went with each song, and tried to reproduce that in some venues. And as soon as we got out of the studio, as soon as we started playing, COVID hit. We had a few big shows that one got flooded out on the river, and COVID kind of put things down for a couple of years.
Yeah.
this is a fun project. Again, trying something I haven't done before, and that was my first taste of doing the tribute band thing. It was a lot of enjoyable work, and I do want to mention that two of the guys I were on the worship team at my church, drummer Jordan Smith and Aaron Crane, who's just a prolific songwriter. Look him up sometime. But he's fantastic. And so it was us three, and then we added a guy, Alan Needham, who actually came into Bride for like a week or two. And he was in the biggest band around here that was popular called Fire Department, and was thinking about joining us. We wrote 4 or 5 songs the first night we got together. And then after about 2 weeks, he decided that, he'd go back with his other band because they decided they were going to do an album then. So Alan's with me now. After all these years, I finally get to play with him. He's just an amazing guy. He's great. Just, I think back at how lucky I am. I really, really have been lucky to just have these guys as friends and be surrounded by that much talent. And, a lot of times I just think, how did I get here? How am I in the middle of this? But yeah, there's a lot of heart and soul into that. We'll hope to get that going again.
Well, and I know Rex is probably a bigger fan than me, but I actually had 3 U2 posters on my wall back in the day.
Oh, did you?
I did. And I just want to say you guys sound really good. Joshua Scott sounds really good. And I hope, Frank, that, may the Lord's will be done. But I do recognize that COVID, it's affected a lot of people in different ways. I hope that if the Lord wills it and things, I hope you guys can give it another chance, because y'all sound really good. I hope you don't just give up on it, Yeah,
well, we've got a lot of production into it, so we think that'll.
There's all these reunion tours and whatever, even a one-off show. Do you think there's any possibility of, the band from your era doing anything, a one-off concert or anything, or is that just totally out of the question, do you think now?
Yeah. Well, the last time I played with those guys, we did a tribute show for Steve Osborne to the Children's Cancer Fund. And that place was packed. I do talk to Mr. Dale on a regular basis. He records for a lot of people. I bet you he records 200, at least 200 plus songs. He kind of does it over the internet. But yeah, we've been approached. Dale's been approached several times, and his voice is just back to he sounds great. He's nailing his range, and he could do it. And whether it happened or not, I don't know. We kind of thought about it, when Steve was gone, could we really do it?
Right.
And over time, those kind of wounds heal. But all I can say is I'd be up for it.
Okay.
Have you heard of Immortal Fest, Frank?
I have not.
Okay. So, Rex, tell them about Immortal Fest, because I think it would be awesome if the Classic Bride could do a one-up there.
Yeah, there was in February at this place called the BMI Event Center in Versailles, Ohio. It's about 3 hours south of me. It's right north of Dayton, Ohio. They had Bloodgood and White Cross there. And then this Labor Day weekend, they had all the bands from the 80s. I mean, we had the classic Barren Cross lineup, Sacred Warrior, classic Petra Resurrected, Daniel Band, White Cross, a couple newer bands, and
amazing.
They're going to do it again. It's going to be an annual event, and I think it's going to be every Labor Day weekend. And, you guys come to my mind of a band I would love to see there, and a couple other bands, but it's all that classic 80s rock and metal that we all grew up with as teenagers. All those bands.
Right.
Yeah, the good stuff, as Kent said. So I didn't know if you were aware of that or see anything on Facebook after the fact about it, people talking about it, but it was really awesome. And there was meet and greets, and the bands were out, you know, and about. You could talk to them, you know, just in passing. So, you know, I thought that might be why I asked you that question is that might be a way for like even just a one-off concert for, you know, kind of that classic era of Bride to perform. But
yeah, I think that ball's kind of in Dale and Troy's court. They're still recording and putting Bride albums out. And, yeah, it's and Dale's in New Zealand, and you know we could get him back over here. Yeah, I mean, I'm up for it. I always love to play, so
yeah,
I think it'd be a good time.
Frank, I'm looking at the time, and we usually go about an hour and 30, and just want to say thank you for blessing us. It's been a long time coming, and I'm very grateful to be able to speak with you and fellowship with you today. Frank, is there anything specifically that you might wish to say to either the classic era Bride fans or, you know, fans and friends of your more recent music endeavors? Is there anything you'd like to say to them?
Well, definitely the Bride fans. It still amazes me to this day that those CDs are still being produced and bought. I mean, I get friend requests from all over the world, and you know, just kind of, you know, just makes me happy that people are still listening after all these years. I never would have thought it. So yeah, you know, thank everyone who ever listened to any CD, bought our CD, showed up at our shows. You know, we just loved everybody. Some of the best years of my life for sure. Yeah, I've been blessed. You know, I look back at those days, and you know, when you're young, you don't really get what you're doing at the time. I don't know how to explain this. You know, it is when you reflect on it, it's like, wow, that was really some cool stuff. And so yeah, you know, nothing but good and love for everybody.
Well, thank you, Frank. And you know, we always like to keep the main thing, and that's you know, honoring the Lord. And we're grateful for the gift of music that He's blessed us all with, of many different genres.
I agree.
And Mike is our resident minister, and he usually closes us out with a word of scripture. So, Mike, what's the scripture closeout for today, buddy?
So, basically, in honor of Live to Die, which was the first album, Bride album that Frank played on, I have chosen, in honor of the album's title, Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, which says, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me.
Great one. Good choice.
So, Frank, thank you so much. It's been an honor. If you don't mind, we'll close it out, but stick around for one more. See, I got my tongue tangled. One more moment.
Right. Well, give me a second here to thank you guys for having me. I'm really honored that, you know, you have me on your show. And best of luck. Hope your show keeps growing and growing, and keep doing it. And
thank you.
Do a great job.
Thank you.
A lot of fun. And of course, I'm going to think about 1,000 other things as soon as we shut this thing off.
But all the more reason to have another future episode, right?
Yeah, you know, I was hoping to get a special guest in here today, but he was busy. Maybe next time.
Don't spill the beans, and we can work on it next time. That would be awesome.
All right.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we'll talk. Let's put it that way.
That's right. We'll talk.
Maybe a couple extra guests.
Friends, I'm going to put the links down below for Joshua Sky and oh heck, see,
8 Inch Elvis.
8 Inch Elvis. There you go, and Chris Lee and the Broken Hearts. So
thank you,
Frank. Stick around for one more moment, and thank you, friends, for watching. Everybody, take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Appreciate it.